Hi there, gang. Hi, Todd Nauck here. Welcome to my Facebook broadcast live stream here on my Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page. It's been a long time since I've had an opportunity to do a live stream here on Facebook. So, one, I apologize for taking so long. Two, thanks for joining me today. So, today is Superman's 80th birthday. Superman, or Action Comics 1000. Can you believe it? Action Comics has hit 1,000 issues. All happening today. So in celebration of all of this, worked up this Superman piece here. And I thought, you know what? Let's invite my friends to join me as I do the Copic colors. There we go. So I'll probably do my best to call out the Copic color codes as I go, so you can follow along at home or make notes for your illustrations if you're drawing a character of similar colors. So, my brand of choice is Copic Sketch markers. They're a bit of an investment, but they're the highest quality markers that are out there from my experience. So I really enjoy them. So let's see. I'm going to start with some E00. We're going to start with Superman's skin tones. It's a light shade in the E0 category. In this stage, I'm going to start light on the face, then work in darker and lighter shades as necessary. This is just kind of my base shade that I can then build from. How do I feel about Kitty Pryde getting married to Colossus, since Kitty Pryde was always my crush? You know, I'm happy for her. I think if she were to marry anyone in the Marvel Comics universe, I think Colossus is the way to go. So very excited to see how that story goes. I'm very honored to get to be a part of it with the X-Men Wedding Special #1 coming out May 16th. In a story written by Chris Claremont. If y'all read my Nightcrawler series and you enjoyed what Chris and I did with that, then I hope you'll enjoy our re-teaming up here for X-Men Wedding Special Kitty Pryde story. Really cool to re-team up with the classic Nightcrawler team. We got the writer, the artist, and the colorist all back together for this Kitty Pryde story. The Team Supreme. If you're just tuning in, welcome. We're celebrating Superman's 80th birthday today, as well as the release of Action Comics 1000. If you've gotten the book and you've already read it, please no spoilers. I'd hate to have to block any people who are giving spoilers. I have done it in the past. I'll do it again. So please, if you've read the book, no spoilers. I do go back and check out all the comments. So if I see people have posted spoilers, we'll have to take action, serious action. But y'all are all cool. Y'all. It's very rare that people have posted spoilers, so I know we got a lot of cool viewers here, so I know we'll be okay. So there we got Superman's face, neck, and shoulder. Now we'll tackle the fists. Do I find the nibs on my Copics turn black from the black ink? You always had this issue. Yeah, I get a little bit of black in there, but the nice thing about Copics is that even if it gets that little bit of black in there, it doesn't translate into, as you see, there's no black showing up in my color here. It's very rare for that to happen, or at least it's been very rare for me. So not to say that it doesn't happen. There are times where that can happen. If it does, then I just buy some replacement nibs and just pop out this nib and put in a fresh one and keep rocking, keep rolling. Like James Brolin. Now I do try to wait for all the ink lines to dry before I tackle my colors so that I don't get the infection. I mean, the dry ink is not going to infect the tip of the nib from my experience. But they're replaceable, and it's not that new nibs, actually the nibs wear out. And oftentimes I'm replacing nibs just because I wear out the stiffness of the brush tip and it gets a little too soft. So I need to replace it with a new nib so that I can have that firm give that I like in my brush nibs. So I'm always buying new brush nibs whenever I can and replacing whenever I can, just so I can have a like new marker. Which is a nice thing about Copics is that they're refillable and the tips are replaceable. Do my Copics ever smear my Micron pens? Not really, no. Only if I haven't allowed the pen ink to dry, does it smear that. Or if the board is really slick, then it needs even more time to dry. So I'm very cautious of how slick the board is. In fact, I've had some past mistakes on certain boards where I've learned double check the boards, really just use the boards I know. Someone brought me a board that they wanted drawing on, and or certain sketch covers, anything that Marvel put out before 2014 can be too slick. So I'm very cautious about which boards that I draw on now because of some past smears and mistakes. So let's see, coming in with some E01, just a little bit of a darker shade. So I'm very cautious about what boards. Now my Strathmore Bristol board, smooth Bristol board, and my Canson Bristol boards that you see me draw on in pretty much every video, unless it's a sketch cover, those I feel very confident with, and I trust that they are going to be the right sort of slickness, and I feel safe in illustrating on those to not get smearing, or at least as much smearing. It's not to say smearing never happens for me. It does happen. It can happen. We live in an imperfect world, but it's minimized. It's minimized. It becomes more rare using the tools that I trust and going through the procedure I know I need to, like wait for the art to fully dry, like wait for the line art to fully dry before I tackle the colors. Kicking in a little bit of that patience, which sometimes I can get really impatient. I get so excited, I just jump right into the colors, and I realize, yikes, I'm not completely dry here. Slow my roll. So just sculpting in the color here on Superman, considering, where the shadows would fall, like underneath the hair here, it's going to just be a little darker. And I'm going to come in with some cool grays for some real nice realistic shadows here later on after I get all the colors dropped in. But just sculpting out the planes of the face. So study your anatomy, gang. Study the face, study the body, study the muscles and their shapes. You have to ingrain these in your memory. You don't have to learn all the names of the muscles and bones and stuff. That's not important. Just know your shapes by heart. And then if you encounter a pose or situation where you're not sure how the shape goes, look up photo reference. I do it all the time. All the time. Very important. Very, very important. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to those that just tuned in. So glad you're here. It's been a while since I've done a YouTube a Facebook live art broadcast. I thought celebrating Superman's birthday here on Facebook would be fun to do, since it's been too long since I've last done a broadcast here. What Copic colors am I using for skin tone? For Superman here, I started with a base of E00, and now I just applied some E01. Now I'm going to come in with a little R20. Just going to drop in a little pink, like around the nose here. I like doing a rosy nose. Just a little bit though. Just a little bit here on the bottom lip. A little bit here on the upper lip for shadow. Just a little bit, not a lot. So a little bit there on the cheeks, just a tiny, tiny bit. Just a tiny bit. I'm going to blend this through with a little bit here on the knuckles. going to come in with an even lighter shade of pink, something that's halfway between the R20 and the E00s. And I'm going to blend that through so it's not a real vibrant pink. I want a real subtle pink here in these areas. If Superman were a younger character, like a teenage character or a child or maybe a female, I would probably leave a lot of that rosy color in there. I'd let the pink be more vibrant, but I don't quite want that with this Superman illustration. So this is the R00 that I'm using right now. I just like to put a little pink in there just to give a little bit of life. Just kind of conveys a little bit of a, well, yeah, I guess there's no other better word for it that I can find than life. Just gives them a little personality. All right, so that was the R00. Okay, so let's continue on now here with the hair. I'm going to use the B45. Where'd I get my craft paper sketchbook? Let's see, that's a Cardino scrapbook that I got at Daiso Japan stores here in Southern California. It's like everything at that store is $1.50 unless priced otherwise. So I get my zebra sketch pens there, or brush pens, zebra brush pens there. I got that scrapbook, that craft paper scrapbook, because I thought it'd be cool. Hopefully y'all had a chance to see my Domino Deadpool 2 time-lapse video and my Venom video on my YouTube channel. Those were done in that craft paper scrapbook. It's really thick paper too. I mean, it is so thick that the marker does not bleed through to the other side. Like you can see here, Superman, it's bled through to the other side. That scrapbook paper is so thick, it does not bleed through. I was amazed. It's borderline cardboard, but real nice quality. And only $1.50 for like a 12-page sketchbook. So really great. So I could use both sides of the paper if I wanted to. So Superman, traditionally has that kind of bluish hair. That's what we're kind of going for here. But I'm going to put a little gray here so it doesn't look super blue. But this is a B45, so it's kind of a grayish blue. This is my Copic color of choice, so I'm drawing a black-haired character. Let's put a little bit of this through the eyebrows too. It's very subtle, very, very subtle. What's my favorite Superman story? I don't know if I have a favorite Superman story. Let's come in with a little neutral gray 4 here. Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite Superman story that I can think of offhand. I'm currently reading the Booster Gold Superman story team up in Action Comics that leads up to Action 1000. Again, for those that just tuned in, if you've read Action 1000, please no spoilers. So just coming in with some gray over this blue here, and then just leaving a little white there for a highlight through the hair. All right, let's color the blue of his eyes. Going to start with a little B10. Do I remember Superman's first appearance? I was not born yet. I was not born. I'm not that old. I was not born in 1938. Heck, my mom wasn't even born in 1938, nor my dad. Now a little B14. Just a little darker up under the eye there. Any chance I'll work at DC again? I hope so. Just push in a little closer there so you can see some of the details a little bit better. I'd love to come back to DC sometime, but right now Marvel's keeping me hopping. I'm having so much fun at Marvel, getting to work on a lot of cool projects. So if an opportunity were to come to work at DC again, definitely something I would consider if the project was right. So now I'm coming in with some Y13. Right now I'm really busy with my Marvel projects, the Spidey miniseries debuting this summer on Comixology, and hopefully it'll be released in print afterwards. So Y13, I believe, if I didn't say the code for this shade of yellow. One of my favorite shades of yellow here at Copic, as far as the Copic colors go. Also, my X-Men Wedding Special #1. I drew a Kitty Pryde story written by Chris Claremont and colored by Rochelle Rosenberg. We've teamed up again. We're the Nightcrawler 2014 series team. So if you enjoyed our Nightcrawler series, make sure you pick up X-Men Wedding Special #1, May 16th. So yeah, so Marvel's keeping me really hopping. And I'm having a blast. Am I looking forward to Ryan Ottley's work on Amazing Spider-Man? Absolutely. I've loved his work on Invincible. So awesome to see he's going to be at Marvel now, and that guy was made for drawing Spider-Man. I think it's going to be a hit right out of the gate. He has just been phenomenal on Invincible, and I cannot wait to see his take on the Spider-Man and Marvel Universe characters. I think we're going to be in for a huge treat when Ryan's issues come out. Very happy for him. Cannot wait to read them as a fan of his work myself. So that was Y13. Going to come in with some Y21. A deeper shade of yellow here. What's the best paper to have when working with Copic markers? I personally, I don't know if it's the best, but it's what I like to use. I use Strathmore Bristol board, smooth Strathmore Bristol board, and I also use Canson, Y19, Canson recycled Bristol board. Those have been my personal favorites. So Superman's belt here, I want a shiny buckle, so I'm leaving a little bit of white through the middle there. So this light yellow is kind of reflecting the sky, and then this darker part here is reflecting the horizon. I'm going to come back in with a little Y21 here to create a gradation. That's what I love about Copic markers, is that they blend almost at a watercolor level of blending, which is really fantastic. So it gives a sense of a reflective, so you can see the belt is made of like a leathery material, but the buckle is made of a shiny kind of gold-like material. All right, let's move to the reds now. I refilled my reds this morning. Hopefully they're not overfilled. I always like to keep a little test sheet of paper off to the side, just to do a little dab to make sure it's not overly juiced and doesn't blotch or blot on my illustration. So starting with a base of Y24. Just leaving a little bit of the white there, a little white on the board as a highlight, just a little bit. Don't want to use too much because I don't want it to make it look too shiny. And just letting the Copic feather. I see your word problem there, Jared. It's way too long for me to actually read it. Actually, I have to click more to see. But the answer to your math problem would probably be 7. Since I haven't read the end of it, I don't know the entire problem, but usually a good quantifying number 7. Assuming your math problem is looking for a numeric answer. I look forward to going back after the broadcast and reading your entire word problem and finding out if my answer to your word problem is, if 7 would even work as an answer. But thanks for sharing the word problem. Definitely appreciate the creativity. Got to pull back. The red parts here are getting so big. We need a little more space. If you fail calculus, it's on me. No, I do not accept that, Jared. No. I will not take that responsibility. I'm sorry. This is an art broadcast, not a math tutorial broadcast. You knew that going into this, young man. Good luck with your calculus class, though. I hope you're not in calculus right now watching this, where you should be paying attention in class. Thanks for the kind words, gang. Appreciate that. Glad you like what you see. Honored to know that this has inspired you to get back into drawing. Keep on drawing, keep having fun is my motto. So we're still working with the R24 here, in case you lost track. We'll be coming in with a darker shade of red here momentarily. Still leaving a little bit of the white of the board as little tiny highlights here and there, like right at the top, right at the bend of his the belt loops on his trunks. So glad the trunks are back. Thank you, DC Comics, for realizing Superman. Even though wearing your underwear on your outside doesn't work in the real world, in comics, man, it just works for Superman here in the comics. It just looks right. It's just classic. It's iconic. And I really like how the red breaks up all that blue. So when he wasn't wearing the red trunks for the past few years, the costume looked cool, but I don't know, it was just missing something. And I think the trunks was it. We needed the trunks back. So glad they brought the trunks back. All right, let's tackle the boots here. So do I need to erase there? Little pencil line that didn't get caught? Yep, this little pencil line that didn't get caught in the original erasing. Just kind of let that fade out to nothingness. My next convention in Southern California, yes, that will be Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario, California in mid-May. That information is on toddnauck.com right now. So you can stop by my website after here. And I always post my convention appearance updates on my website, toddnauck.com. So try to also update that on my social media. But if you haven't heard from me in a while, or you haven't seen any posts on my social media, always do check toddnauck.com. In fact, subscribe to the RSS feed, and then you'll get email updates every time I post a new update on my website. So we got all the R24 done. Now we're going to come in with some R27, a little bit of a darker shade. I'm going to sculpt in some darker color now. Going over some of the R24 that I laid down, but I like to saturate my color. And we're coming in strictly R27 underneath, or on the inside of the cape, to give a darker shade from the outer part of the cape. Doing this to help frame Superman a little better. It'll give the blue and the reds like of his S a little more pop. It'll just it'll trick the eye into what to focus on. So I consider the inside of the cape as a framing element to Superman, or to any character that wears a cape. That's why I often think of the shape I make of the cape. I want it to flow and fling about in a kind of a natural way, depending on how the character is moving, or not flowing about if the character is more static or standing. But I think of it as a framing element. And how can I utilize these shapes and the colors underneath to really make the figure stand out? So I keep in mind where the lines start and stop. Like I stopped it here, like I made sure it came down here so that the red connected to the blue. Instead of like cutting, like here I cut it at the trunks. But halfway through the trunks, not right at the line. I didn't want to go right to there because that would create a tangent. Do not want tangents. Tangents are when lines meet up with other lines, and you don't want those sort of shapes happening, because then it's I don't know how to explain it other than it just kind of looks weird. So we want to keep things in mind when we're drawing to not fall into tangents. An awkward intersection of lines, I should say. Maybe that's one way to put it. All right, now let's use some of this red here in the S now. Now always keep in mind the shape of Superman's chest here in rendering the S. This is why we say study your anatomy, know your anatomy. So the black shapes I put inside the S were keeping in mind his musculature. And now as I pull the darker red in from the black parts of the S into the R24 of the S, again, I'm keeping in mind the shape of his muscles. Now see, I got a little bit of red outside the line there. It bled outside. What's great about Copic markers, so you can come in here and I can just rub this Y13 over that, and it kind of blends out the overlap, which is a real nice trick. So let's see. Still using the R27 here, just for the darker parts of the trunks. In a sense, it's kind of a shadow shade, but I will be coming in with some cool grays for the true shadow stage. Now for the boots. Since I have this dark shadow of the blue here, I'm meeting that with the red. To carry that dark shape down for consistency. Consistency of shape of the body. Yes, well put, Josh. Yes, tangents, they look like things that are on the same plane, and it looks bad because you lose depth. Absolutely. So let's see. Now I'm going to come in with a slightly darker shade, an R56. Just for the deeper, darker parts here. Not using quite as much of this shade here in the outer parts of Superman just yet. Just want a taste of it. I will be using it more here on the inner part because, as I said before, the inner part of this cape is more of the framing element. I want to keep in mind the curves of the cape, how it flows, and reflect that in the shapes that I make with the color. I just noticed a whole section here that I put markers in all sorts of wrong places. I forgot to fill in this part with R27. Probably got so caught up in what I was talking about, I forgot what I was doing. There we go. No crayons? No, man, my crayons are all broken. I broke all my crayons. That's why I use Copic markers. They're harder to break. Because I freaking love coloring. If you could see me right now, I'm in that exact pose as that little kid in that meme. I freaking love coloring! That's me right now. Y'all seen that meme. You know the one I'm talking about. You can just imagine me in that pose. Shoulders hunched, grimace on my face as I color the crap out of this thing. Let's see. I'm going to come in with a little R59 now. It's an even deeper, darker shade of red. So I'm really layering up my reds right now. For those deepest, darkest shadows, but still not my shadow. I'm still going to come in with those cool grays. Stick around for the cool gray shadow part. It's coming up. Pretty much after we get the blues done here on soups, we'll be going to cool gray town. Well, we've been broadcasting so long, my battery's running out. Let me plug in the charger here real quick so we don't lose the camera. Okay, let's put a little bit of this deep dark red, this R59, up in here where the cape folds from his shoulders. Maybe a little bit here on the bottom part of the S. Fading up here to the upper portions. Okay, now what I do, after I do all this, I go back to my original base shade, which was the R27, and then I do a second coat to kind of blend all those darker shades into the base shade again. As I mentioned before in the video, I like a lot of saturation of color. It helps get that blended, lush effect that I'm looking for. So it just blends it all through real nice and smooth. See how that all blends through there? Just smooths it out real nice and pretty. So it's I put down my base, add my darker shades, and then go back over with that same base shade to blend it all into smoothness. To get the effect that I want. All right, so Superman's coming together here pretty well. Now we just need to go to the blues. Now with this, I think I'm going to work opposite the way I did before and go with a work from dark to light. So I'm going to start with a B06. I'm going to hit all my darkest areas first. So this is kind of just another approach to coloring. And I chose to do it with this blue just because these shades of blue are so vibrant that I feel more comfortable just starting with the darkest parts and working my way lighter than I do with my reds or skin tones. So I'm tackling all the places where the shadows would fall. So my light source is pretty much coming from up above. Now, I could have used this same approach for the reds if I wanted to. There'd be no problem with that. So if you want to just go working from dark to light to light to light, totally cool. Both ways work. I could have done a base shade of blue, added my darks, then lightened it all up if I wanted to. That would have been fine to do that approach. But with these shades of blue, I don't know. I've just always liked going this B06. I'm going down to the B04. I just have always liked doing darks to lights with this shade of blue. What markers do I use? I use Copic Sketch markers. Been using these, and I've been using Copic Sketch markers since I discovered them back in 2009. Now come in for the leg muscles. Can't skip leg day. Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you discovered me. Thanks for liking my page. And for all of you watching, if you're on other social media, you can find me there as well. I post a lot on Instagram, and I'm at Todd Nauck on Instagram. I'm also at Todd Nauck on Twitter. So if you're on those platforms and want to follow me there as well, please do find me. And also, if you like seeing my videos here, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm Todd Nauck on YouTube. I've got probably close to 200 art videos like this on my YouTube channel. So make sure you go there and subscribe, and then set the notifications, which is that little bell that shows up after you click subscribe, and you can set your notifications so that you'll be notified anytime I post a new video or schedule a live art stream on my YouTube channel. So this is where studying our anatomy comes in handy, gang. So continue to study your anatomy. I can still study my anatomy. I still try to find new ways to draw things, to study the human body, how the muscles change shape when they extend or contract. So always be studying your anatomy so that you know the shapes, so that when you render in pencil, ink, or color, you can have believability is really what I believe we look for in comics. Because it's an exaggeration, but we still want a level of believability in our characters, no matter how cartoony the style is. Having believability just takes your skills to another level of professionalism. So always keep that in mind. Your anatomy and your shapes. Also makes it more fun too. You'll be happier with your end product, I think. So keep studying, gang. Keep studying. I do. That's why I encourage you to do as well. Okay, so that was all B06 right there. B06. Now I'm going to power down to the B04 and start to layer in this lighter shade, pulling from the darker shade into the white. Art, like a lot of other things, is a continuing education. Absolutely. Very well put. Very true. And that's what keeps it fun for us. Keeps it fun for me as an artist. There's always something new to learn, so it keeps it fresh for me. Otherwise, I'd probably get bored. So always seek to learn something new, gang. It's like playing a video game, you know? You want to keep leveling up. And even the skills you do have, you can always get a little bit better. Why don't I work for TV and cartoon illustration? Because I love comic books. I love the storytelling medium that is comic books. It's just where my passion is. I've looked into working in TV and animation, and I was offered jobs in that way back in the day. But I realized I love comic books. I love to watch cartoons and animation, movies and TV shows. Absolutely. I definitely appreciate it as an art form. But as far as like working in it, I'd rather work in comics. It's just where my passion lies. It's where my skill set lies. So that's why I work in comics, is because I love getting to tell a story in 20 pages. Still leaving a little wide of the board. I have one more shade of even lighter blue that I'll be coming in here with. When am I going to draw Batman? I probably should do a Batman live stream sometime. I have done some Batman post-it note sketches on my YouTube channel, so make sure you swing by youtube.com/Todd Nauck. You can see, I know I have at least one. I actually have a second Batman video on there. It's hard to remember. I've got so many videos up on there now. It'd be fun to do a Batman video like the Superman one. Maybe when Detective Comics reaches 1,000 issues. All right, almost done with this shade of blue. All right, now I'm going to come in with some B01. It's a very, very light shade of blue. I pull from the B04 and B06 into the white, so that I'm blending it all together. Again, more of that saturation, saturating that color. And you eaten up most of that white too. I don't want too much white on here. I don't want Superman to look like a shiny balloon. And too many little white highlights would definitely give that feel. So the further away he is from the light source, we're just filling that all in with blue. Like down here on the abs. Keeping a teeny tiny bit of white right up there on the clavicle. Maybe a little bit here on this outer part of his shoulder muscle. Maybe a little bit there on the forearm. Maybe keep a little bit, just a smidge there on the top of the thigh. But because these markers are made to blend, just bringing this B01 over these other two colors just smooths everything out. To a nice blended sort of look. The other colors are going to react to that B01 ink in a favorable way. You can always do a second coat too, if you need. Nice thing with the brush tip is you can also lightly feather in the color if you need to. All right, so Superman's really coming together. Any chance of more Wild Guard in the future? I hope so. I hope so. Got a short story I've been noodling on. Hope to get it finished sometime soon. So I'm going to come in here and take out some of the white in the tops of his boots here. I left a little more than what I wanted. So we're just going to take a little bit of that out. Same thing in the trunks, just a little less white. Okay. Welcome to those that just tuned in. So glad you're here. Let's see. Now we're going to go to the gray tones for shadowing on Superman. So I'm going to start with shadowing his skin tone first. So I'm going to start with the cool gray 1. And shadow everywhere, like under his hair there. Anywhere where the light source, now as I said, the light's coming from above for the most part. So anywhere that would have overlaps. So the bridge of, or the brow of his from his eyes, or under his nose, under his lip, starting with a cool gray 1 first. We can always go darker when necessary. Right here on this side of the bridge of his nose. So the light's kind of coming from the right, above and from the right, just a little bit from the right. Under his chin. When it comes to shading, I start lighter because I can always go darker if I need to. But if you go darker, it's almost impossible to go lighter. So it's better to start off light and then darken as needed. And I consider the planes of the face. So that's why we study our anatomy, gang. So we know the jawline to chin. All right, let's reflect this in his fists as well. The bottom parts of the fingers. The back side of this hand would be away from the light source. The bottom sides of these fingers. Consider the knuckles. All right, so that was this cool gray 1. We're going to beef it up to the cool gray 2 for a little darker shades, like underneath the nose. Everybody makes it look so easy using these Copics. Well, I appreciate that, but a lot of it, pretty much all of it, has been a lot of practice. I've been working with Copic markers for 9 years now. And if you see any of my earlier Copic illustrations compared to what I do now, you'll see that there's a bit of a difference. I've had a lot to learn. And there's still more for me to learn. I'm always learning new tricks. So it only looks easy because we are practiced in using this material. Just some little darker shades here with the cool gray 2. Okay, we're going to use the same cool gray 2 to drop in some grays in the yellow areas. Remember that horizon we were talking about here on the shiny part of his belt? Bring the gray in there. Oh man, boom. Get that nice golden sort of shiny gold look. Gray on this inner part here, from the shadow cast from his arm a little bit. Okay, now we're going to punch up to a cool gray 4 for the blues of his costume. So definitely want the gray up underneath that where the cape overlaps. That's a lot of fun. Really starts to create that depth, you know? Really popping that depth. The undersides of muscles. Again, this is where our anatomy practice comes into play. Knowing our shapes. How to work our shapes. Got to work those shapes, gang. Way up underneath here, under the arm. It's going to be a heavier shadow. What resources would I recommend for studying anatomy? 1, draw from real life. 2, if you're looking for anatomy books, Bridgman and Loomis are very popular. At art school, my instructor taught via Bern Hogarth, Dynamic Anatomy. This is the book I used. So those are 3 people you can look up. Loomis, Bridgman, and Hogarth. Check out all three and see which one or ones appeal to you. Bridgman, Loomis, Loomis, and Hogarth, Hogarth, Hogarth. Like the kid from Iron Giant. So see what the gray there does on against the colors? Really brings a kind of a lifelike shadow. Really brings a reality to the character. And it's just a series of cool grays, really. You can come in with warm grays. You can come in with neutral grays if you want. Sometimes I do, depending on the illustration I'm doing, the mood I'm going for, maybe the setting, the lighting, all sorts of things to consider. Lots of different factors. But in general, just coming in with cool gray here really can fit the bill. And the way the cool gray reacts to the other shades of colors kind of changes them and takes it from a very really bright color illustration. I call it the Skittle effect. Looks like a bunch of Skittles, which is a delicious candy. One of my favorites, personally. Kind of takes out that skittly sort of look and grounds it in a little bit more reality. Or as real as things can be when you're dealing with comic book superheroes. That's kind of the fun of it, is taking something over the top and fantastic, fanciful, and making it seem real or believable. That's kind of the fun of comics and superheroes, is creating a believability to a reality that doesn't truly exist. Let's come in here and pop some shadows into the legs. Again, I'm always thinking about the light source. I'm always thinking light's coming from above. Shadows, for the most part, on the bottom side. Just kind of a rule of thumb to start with. So you see the legs here have really changed now by dropping in this cool gray. I'm using the Cool 4 as a reminder. So it really shapes out these legs. I mean, you can compare this leg to this leg. You can see the difference that the gray has brought into it. So much more believable. Am I going to blend in the cool grays? Not necessarily. They kind of, in a sense, blend in themselves because the ink is reacting to the ink I've already laid down on the board. If I do need to blend, I'll probably blend in with a lighter shade of blue. Not so much blend in with lighter shades of cool gray. It all just depends on what's going on in the illustration and how the colors are reacting to each other. And right now I'm pretty content with how this gray is reacting to these blues. I think C4 was the right choice. But that's just based on my experience in the past. I knew to go to C4 because I've used C4 with these blues in the past. If I wasn't certain which color to use with these blues, I would have probably started lighter with maybe like a C3 and then realized, oh, I can go darker, and then bumped up to a C4. Heck, I might even come in here with some C5 just for some heavier shadows. In fact, I will definitely do that. In fact, let's do that right now. Some C5 just in those certain little spots that get seriously dark, where there'd be seriously dark shadows, especially up underneath this cape here. Really just is so much fun to see how that cape gets such depth. I mean, we're getting 3D almost in that sense. Some really dark up underneath this bicep that's going backwards, going back away from him. And the underpart, this inside underpart of his forearm there, really starts to get that 3D look. So much fun. This is why we do it, gang. Having fun. Having fun. Let's just drop a little bit here in the legs, especially here in the leg going back. Just a little darker. Just the inner parts of his thigh here, furthest away. Now I'm leaving a little bit of the blue there for a reflected light. So that's my mentality there. It's just leaving that blue for the reflected light through there. Awesome. So that takes care of the blues. Now let's come in. Let's keep using this cool gray 5 for the reds. I think cool gray 5 is the right shade for the reds. A lot of this will be coming into play in the underneath backside of the cape. Just letting it feather out there. As y'all remember me mentioning earlier in the broadcast, or if you just tuned in, I like using the cape, the inside of the cape, as a framing element for the character. That's the way I like to think of it. How can I make the character pop? By the shape and color of the inside of the cape. The cool gray in the folds there, where it connects to his clavicle and then fans out, where it all bunches up. Those folds there is what I'm playing with. And again, it's a lot of fun to draw. It's a fun detail. Using a lot of cool gray up under here because it's the furthest back. It's going to be the most shadowy part back there. Put some of this in his trunks down here, furthest away from the light source. Down here in this boot that's further away from us. Same here in this leg. All right, you know what? I'm going to power this down to a cool gray 3 just to lighten up. Here I are blending some of the grays from the darker parts to the lighter parts of the red. Definitely want more of a gradation. So definitely want that gradation. Okay, so next up is, let's start working in a little bit of a background here. What we're going to do is create a fade of kind of like a rubble fade. So it'll be kind of like a smoky, sort of dusty sort of look. So I want to come in with some, how do I want to work this? Let's see, I'm going to map this out a little bit. So we have the lines cutting through this way. Yeah, so just a little light penciling here. Just to create the arc of what will be the smoke. So we'll start with dark up there, and then a smoky sort of look around there. So it'll be dark up top, down to lighter. So, okay. I think I know what I'm doing now. I think I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to start with I'm going to use a lot of neutrals and maybe some warm grays here. So there's going to be a lot of use of negative space. And fading. Creating a fade. So this will take some time to do. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for hanging out with me. So that's some neutral 6. Going to bring it down to some neutral 4. So just letting the brush tip kind of dance across the page. Let's power it down to a neutral 2. So just kind of letting this all sort of play. Let's bring in some warm grays here. We're going to have a series of neutral and warm grays. So let's come in with a little, let's try a little warm 3. Yeah, warm 3 will be nice. Just kind of dirties it up a little bit. Just letting the color, the grays react to each other. And this neutral gray is going to need a refill. It's getting a little worn out. Let's power that down to a warm gray 2. Thanks for the kind words, gang. Appreciate that. Let's see, let's come into the, I'm going to pull this back here a little bit more so you can see the broad strokes. So we'll go back to the neutrals. Let's start with a neutral. Let's start light. We'll start light and working our way. Yeah, let's start with a neutral 3. Let me erase out some of these lines just a little bit more. Just my guidelines, don't need quite so much. Just erase those out a little bit. Now I'm going to feather in these curved diagonals here. It's like wind wisping through the smoke. So just using that brush tip, lightly feathering in these wisps here. Kind of staggering the clumps of wisps. And it starts to kind of billow up into a cloud here. And this is the fun part here, is the wisps then overlap his leg here, so it looks like he's standing in the cloud, and it just gets the cloud becomes too dense to see through. As you see, I kind of left space here for the cloud. I'll be now filling in area. Just some dots and blurps as I start to sculpt in. We'll be bringing in lots more colors here, more shades of gray as we go. This is just getting things started here with the cool neutral gray 3. Let's bring in some neutral 1. It's a lighter shade. So we build towards this smoke cloud. We'll be bringing in cool grays as well. When and where necessary. Just keeping those wisps going. I want to leave some white there for the wisps. The white is a key part. Take out some of the pencil lines there. Letting the gray overlap the red there a little bit. That's fine. Okay, let's come in with some warm gray. Get some warm gray in here. I'm going to start with some warm 1. Just kind of let this dance in here amidst the neutral grays. I got some more pencil lines to take out there. So this just kind of warms it up a little bit, dirties it up a little bit. Bring the warm gray into these neutral gray wisps. Still keeping that white of the board there. Still want that to be a part of it. Come in with a little warm gray 0. It's a very, very light shade. I want a little more darkness in these clouds, so I'm going to bring in a little warm gray 3. Just let it bounce in some darker spots. In fact, I'm going to drop some flecks of debris in through here. Just let it dance. Just kind of let it bing bong and pop about. Don't want to overdo it. Don't want it to look like polka dots. Just gonna bring this some new warm gray 3 wisps in here. Just for a little more darkness. Come in with some warm gray 5. It's a much darker shade, but I just want a few of those debris dots through here. Just in select places where I put some of the warm gray 3 dots, just adding a little warm gray 5 to it. Just for those little tiny flecks of rubble and debris floating about, a little some grits, little gritty, not grits, not like not the food, but little gritty bits. It was a failed cereal from the 1970s from the makers of Quarry. Gritty bits. Got a few more tricks here I'm going to add to this. But we are getting close to the end here. I'm going to put some of these gritty bits up in the sky. Being very mindful about where I'm putting them, how I'm letting them dance. The concentration of small and big, I want that to be varied as much as possible. I don't want too many clumped. I don't want them too evenly spaced. Definitely want to avoid even spacing as much as possible. As much as I'm able to, because then that becomes very static and boring. So I've got to be very careful. All right, gonna just add some more warm gray 5 here to this part of the background, just to create a little more depth. The darkness will give the illusion of depth. Because it's contrasting against the lighter parts, let's do this with some neutral 5 as well. Maybe some neutral gritty bits. Through here. Maybe even over the boot a little bit there. Okay. Now, let's see. Just a couple of finishing touches here, and this piece will be done, gang. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Now I'm going to take my French curve and my Uniball Signo white gel pen. And along the lines of the wisp, I'm going to cut in with some white here. Come in with a little more white down here. Gotta be careful not to smear the white that I've already laid down. Should have started lower and then worked my way up. So I had to be very mindful that the French curve does not smear those lines I'd put down. Slightly different angle here. Bring the line across and all the way through. Let's have one that's slightly different angle. Just angling it up just a little further. Maybe add a little dot for some white gritty bits. So it starts to see how it starts to show the wisps cutting through. Let's do one right across the dark part of the leg here. Cutting back to that original angle. I don't want to do it right at the knee. That would be, you don't want to cut things right across a joint. So we're going to come right down here mid-calf. Got to be very mindful where we do these things. Cutting things right at a joint like a knee, an elbow, a wrist, an ankle is very... It's unappealing, visually unappealing. It almost looks like a severing of the limb. So that's why we don't do it right at the knee joint or elbow joint or wrist joint or any joint really. Avoid that whenever possible. It's kind of just a little bit cutting this way. Maybe a second line, a little double line there. So it just shows the movement of the wisps down towards the feet, overlapping. Gonna do the same thing here on this leg. Just to kind of create that gradation down below. It just gives the eye something to play with there. So it shows most of the cloud is behind him, but there's just this part down here in the front it's in the front and everything else has moved towards the back. What could be fun to do here is add a little highlight into that dark area of the belt there. Just put a couple of dots like that as a fun little detail. And then pulling some white from the hair into the color. This could be a very tricky move. Just a couple of wisps. That's all we really need. That's all we really need. And gang, we are done. Put my autograph on here. And today's date, which is the 18th of April, 2018. Superman debuted, I think, April 18th, 1938. Here we are, 80 years later. Let's pull the camera way back. And there we go. Here are the finished colors. You can also see a link to the finished image in the info below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on future art videos. And keep on drawing, keep having fun. Till next time.